You think this is a damn circus? Get up. Get out now. That was Rick Holston, barking at me like some guard dog finally catching a whiff of black skin in a courtroom. Let me tell you, the way he looked at me, like my silence was some kind of confession, like sitting still was an act of war, made it clear he'd already judged who belonged and who didn't. And in that moment, as he ripped me from the seat like I was nothing, you could feel the whole courtroom freeze, like someone had pulled the plug on the lights, the whispers dying out, the air so thick you could hear a pin drop. The judge stood up, voice cracking through the room like a hammer. You just assaulted the new chief of police, Dr. Anne Hathaway. And it was like everything Rick believed about himself just got set on fire. He thought he was throwing out the trash. Turns out, he just torched his entire career, and I was holding the match. Charleston, 8:12 a.m. Courtroom 3. The place was packed, the ceiling fans spinning so slow it felt like even the air was nervous. You know how those old rooms swallow up noise until all you can hear is the tap of someone's heel or the scratch of a pen? That's what it was like. Rick was standing by the door, uniform ironed sharp enough to cut glass, buttons gleaming, arms crossed, scanning the crowd like he was waiting for trouble, like every stranger was a problem he needed to fix. And then he saw me, a black woman, cream blouse, simple black slacks, front row, back straight, nothing in my hands. Just watching, just being. And that alone made me dangerous in his eyes. He didn't like the way I sat there, silent but unbowed, as if I had every right in the world to be there. He started walking toward me, each step echoing like nails in a coffin. You think this is a circus? He snarled. Get up. Out now. Gasps in the rows behind. A woman clutching her daughter. A law student snapping her notebook shut. I didn't move. I just tilted my head, the tiniest bit, not defiant, just listening. He couldn't handle it. It made him feel exposed. You could see it in the way he shot a look at his partner, Dawson, who was getting real uncomfortable but couldn't say a word. Rick snapped, I'll handle it. And he did what he always did. He reached out and grabbed me by the arm, hard, like he was used to dragging people out of scenes. In that split second, it wasn't about the rules or the law or even about me. It was about him, his need to control, his need to show everyone who was boss. He pulled me up. There were gasps, the scrape of heels, the sound of a phone hitting the tile. I could feel his grip, not just on my arm, but on the entire room. Everybody just locked up, nobody sure what to do. I didn't fight. I didn't flinch. I kept my eyes on his, letting him know, without a word, that I saw exactly what was happening, and that I wasn't afraid. Rick dragged me down the aisle, but he didn't see the judge standing now, robe rippling, voice cold as a winter wind. Officer Holston, you just used force on the highest-ranking official in the Charleston Police Department. Rick went rigid, face draining of all color, like his brain just blue-screened. The whispers started to rise. My name, the new chief, the announcement on the news, live streams going up, the truth spreading like wildfire. When he let go, not out of respect, just out of fear, it was like something finally snapped in him. I straightened my shirt, looked him in the eyes. No anger, no satisfaction, just the simple, unforgettable truth. He hadn't just dragged me out. He'd ripped the mask off the entire system that let him believe he was the law. The room was silent. No one moved. Not even the judge. It was the kind of silence that's heavy with all the things people wanted to say but couldn't. Some folks looked down, ashamed, others just stared, and Rick was left standing alone. The same colleagues who'd always had his back now avoiding his eyes, afraid they'd get sucked into the pit he'd dug for himself. I walked out. No security, no escort, no grand speech, just footsteps echoing down the hall. A law student whispered, I've never seen anyone leave a room so quiet. Her friend said, because she doesn't have to prove anything. The truth already did. That moment, I wasn't just Anne Hathaway, the new chief. I was every person who'd ever been told to sit down, shut up, get out, who'd been silent because they had no other choice. Now, I was the one with the power to open the doors again. Outside, the city was buzzing. News crews, protesters, police, everybody wanted a piece of what just happened. Online, the clip of Rick dragging me out of court was spreading. This is how Charleston greets its new police chief. But you know what? I didn't care about any of that. What stuck with me was the memory of my father, shot dead in front of a corner store when I was 9, no one ever held responsible, my mother gripping my hand, telling me, "Don't forget, you tell this story when I can't." So, I came back, not for revenge, but to make sure nobody else would have to carry that kind of grief alone. Inside my new office, the air was still. I had nothing on the desk except a black fountain pen, the one I got when I first joined the academy, and a piece of my father's shirt, white once, now stained, wrapped in sandpaper. I put it in the drawer, not to mourn, but to remember what justice is supposed to feel like. I wrote my first order, reopen every case closed for lack of evidence in the last 10 years, starting with those tied to Rick Holston. I was done letting silence do the talking. Turns out, Rick wasn't just a bad apple. He was the wall that covered for everything rotten behind it. Dozens of cases, all with the same pattern: missing evidence, malfunctioning cameras, injuries that never made it into the official reports. The deeper I dug, the clearer it got. This wasn't about one man. It was about a system that taught people to look away, to stay quiet, to accept that nothing would ever change. But when I sat across from Elijah Porter's mother, the nurse who treated him, the kid himself now grown, every detail they gave me made it impossible to look away. If my son can't finish telling his story, I will tell it for him. Even if I have to start from another courtroom, his mother said. That's what real strength sounds like. You want a twist? Here it is. Marcus Linwood, a young officer Rick once mentored, the good kid, started bringing me files he'd kept in secret, evidence he'd saved because, in his words, I don't want to be a coward anymore. He wasn't a hero, just a guy who finally realized that standing still is picking a side. That's how you know the walls are really starting to crack. Not because of a headline or a hashtag, but because the people inside are finally willing to pull the bricks down. As more witnesses came forward, like Jalen Morris, who spent 2 years in prison because Rick planted drugs in his car, everyone who'd stayed silent started to squirm. Threats came in, old ghosts tried to scare us back into the dark, but we just kept moving. We dug up the old files, linked the shell accounts, found signatures forged, evidence wiped, and traced the money. Every name that once meant untouchable was now just another node in a web about to be torn apart. We launched the Mirror Protocol. Every case, every log, every dirty secret. No immunity, not for me, not for anyone. The department split. Young cops on one side, old guard on the other, and the truly dangerous ones, the silent watchers, just waiting to see who'd fall first. When the city finally approved Rick's arrest for abuse of power and obstruction, no one cheered, but you could feel the relief, the cold air of something shifting for good. Sitting across from Rick in the detention room, I left him with the truth, the thick file, the testimony, the system logs. I'm not here to save. I'm here to end the cycle you were allowed to repeat. And for the first time, he didn't have a comeback. He just sat there, hands trembling, realizing that the game was over. The curtain dropped, and the only thing left was the truth. You want to know what justice feels like? Sometimes it's not a roar. It's the quiet after a storm, when everyone finally sees their own reflection in the mess that was allowed to grow, when even the ones who looked away realize they're standing on the wrong side of the line. That's when change really begins, not in the noise, but in the silence that follows, when there's nowhere left to hide. So, let me leave you with this. What side are you on, really? The one that lets silence cover for the guilty, or the one that finally dares to look in the mirror and ask what justice means when it's your name on the line? Because trust me, one day it will be. If you've got something to say about right and wrong, about silence and complicity, now's the time to speak up. I want to hear what you think justice really is, and whether this city, or any city, can ever be made right if we just keep looking the other way.